What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to That Amazon Ads podcast for yet another Amazon PPC debate, which Andrew and I are extremely excited about. The topic today, highly interesting, one that is, as I guess all these episodes go, controversial to say the least. We are talking about the topic of TACOS, or total advertising cost of sale, which, Andrew, I don't know about you, but for me, I want to have a separate debate on whether we should even be calling this metric TACOS. I call it ACOTS, where it goes TS at the end because it's ad cost of total sales. Because we're totaling sales, we're not totaling the ad cost. So I think that's better, clearer grammar and better uses of adjectives. But
yeah. You've been definitely hung up on that one for a little while, and I don't think it's really catching on yet. Everybody kind of just likes tacos a little bit more, and I understand why. So
yeah, tacos is the one. Maybe in the Ad Labs app or bid optimizer that's in the link if you want to access it. Maybe in that app I'll throw in the ad cost of total sales and see if it frustrates people. But we have two highly influential individuals. We have Phillip, who is the CEO of Palmetto Digital Marketing Group, a full-service Amazon agency, as well as Joe Shelerud, CEO of Advance, an e-com agency specializing in Amazon ads. So we're going to give these guys an opportunity to just quickly kind of introduce themselves. Hopefully they don't really need an introduction, but maybe some of our listeners newer to the Amazon space don't know these gentlemen yet. So why don't we just, Phillip, we'll let you go first. Just let people know kind of who you are, what you do, and kind of what you're bringing to the table.
Sure. Pleasure to be here. Pleasure to be with everybody. Phillip Durazio, President, CEO, Palmetto Digital Marketing Group. We are a full-service Amazon marketplace agency. We manage approximately 45 brands, hundreds of millions of revenue on the platform each year. And I've been in e-commerce for 22 years, digital 22 years. I worked for a series of public companies, large private equity companies, and digital and e-com roles, and started the agency about 8 years ago and been on the journey ever since. So happy to be here.
Awesome. And we are glad that you are here. And then Joe, who are you? What do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Joe Shelerud, co-founder and CEO of Advance. Like you said, we're a digital advertising agency, and we help a lot of e-commerce sellers on Amazon or Walmart or other platforms like that. Definitely haven't been in the space as long as Phillip has. So I'm a chemical engineer, got into the space actually selling on Amazon back in about 2014, and that introduced me to the ad space. Since then, we've developed a lot of tech and software to help back up our agency itself. So love to share a lot of that content, whether it's on LinkedIn or on my podcast, The Ad Project, or a lot of other good stuff.
Awesome. Well, two experts. Andrew, I saw you. Did you were about to say something?
Nope. Go ahead.
Okay. Two experts, two thought leaders in the space with differing opinions, which we absolutely welcome different opinions in the Amazon space. But as you guys know, part of why we're doing these debate episodes is just an opportunity for people to hear kind of both sides of the argument so that they can kind of go back home and make their own decisions to see what's best for them. Because I think everyone here would agree, every account is different, every client is different, every product, every market, every niche is different. So sometimes things have different applications. But without further ado, I think we should just kick things off. So let's dive in. All right, Phillip. So you are defending the view that TACOS, the total advertising cost of sales, is one of the most important metrics in Amazon advertising. Why don't you kick things off for us? Maybe help just a little bit more on that definition if you think it needs it, and let us know why you think what you do.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I'm of the belief that sellers and brands should live and die by the TACOS metric. TACOS is king, and I'm here to explain why. First and foremost, to start, it's a profitability metric. TACOS is the only advertising, market, and roll-up metric that allows all organizations to understand their margin and profit goals. So clearly, that's one of the most important reasons why TACOS is critical in understanding TACOS. Secondly, it provides a roadmap. So once you understand your margin goals, You understand what your goals would be for your tacos. You can then determine what the ACOS goal would be. And now we're into the ad console. And then from there, once you've got your ACOS goal, it provides the roadmap and it allows you to create strategic initiatives that work backwards to this point, where you can experiment various levers within the ad console, whether it be top TOS or conversion rate, impression share, any other metrics in the ad console. I firmly believe rolls up to the ACOS metric, and then that ACOS metric rolls up to the TACOS metric. Thirdly, and I think this is really important, is when you're looking at the ad interface and you're in the trenches every day trying to figure out how to drive more sales effectively. ACOS is not a one size fits all metric. TACOS and ACOS metrics are not universal, right? All products have varying margins, which means understanding your TACOS is critical, right? To have if you've got 5 products, assume the margins are probably different. So you need different goals for each of those products. So understanding your TACOS allows you to back out all your other advertising initiatives. And then fourth, I think this is probably, in my opinion, one of the biggest reasons why TACOS is critical is the attribution model on the ad console. It's problematic. It won't track cross-device sales. The 7-day attribution window in sponsored products is limited. The 14-day attribution window in sponsored brands is also pretty limited. And so when you can really understand your TACOS metric from the account level and really your TACOS metric goals at the product level, you really don't have to worry about some of the shortfalls of the ad console, especially when it comes to attribution. And so, again, to recap, it's a profitability metric. It provides a roadmap for search and for basically all profits also. It's the one metric where you can actually have it aligned to each one of your product sets. So, ACOS, TACOS, it's not one size fits all. So you've really got to determine which products will have what goals, and then the attribution issues that I laid out earlier. When you evaluate TACOS at the ASIN level, you really alleviate those issues with the attribution. And so those are my 4 pillars to make the case why TACOS is so important.
Awesome.
Solid.
Yeah, good stuff. Good cases there for TACOS, but we're going to give Joe here a chance to rebuttal and refute those claims and tell us why TACOS actually isn't an important metric.
Yeah. So, and I think I have the easier stance here in this debate because I'm going to be agreeing a lot with Phillip. And so I think he made a lot of good points there. And what I'm going to do is point out some of the shortfalls with just focusing on TACOS, which is one of the reasons why I don't like it as much as like the overarching metric. So Phillip's actually absolutely right. TACOS is a great budgeting metric. If I look at my ads and I know how much money I want to allocate to advertising overall. And so with TACOS, say I'm making $1,000 of revenue and I have a 10% TACOS, I allocate $100 of my advertising to that. Then I can figure out what my overall margins are going to be, and that really helps me set good profitability targets. The key thing that I don't like with TACOS, just as the major focus, is it doesn't give me any information on the effectiveness of my ads. And so I think this is some of the nuance that Phillip went into too, because he started bringing up ACOS and other effectiveness metrics. But what I hear and what my concern is, if just focusing on TACOS, like here's the absolute like bad case. Somebody could be making $1,000 in sales organically, and they could say, I want to hit a 10% TACOS. They could give me $100 a day and I could just set that money on fire and it does nothing. I could just burn that cash. I could still hit that 10% TACOS goal over and over again. And so what my concern is when people just focus on TACOS is they'll come to me and they'll say, what's a good TACOS? And like Phillip said, it's not a one size fits all solution. And where we're at in the overall product launch market, where's the margins at for the product? Like, are we trying to expand sales, or are we trying to utilize this as a cash cow and reduce margins? It all depends. But the key issue that I see with just this sole focus on tacos is people will say, what's a good tacos? And we'll say, oh, what's your goals? What's all these questions? And then the other issue I have with tacos is people will talk about it like reducing tacos over time is the ultimate goal. And where I'll agree with that is reducing tacos over time, if you're able to increase organic sales and that's what causes the decrease, that's an awesome goal. But if my goal is to just reduce tacos over time, as an agency, all I have to do is reduce the amount of money that I'm spending. And if I just set my budgets, I can hit any tacos target tomorrow. And so that's my key issue with the focus solely on tacos. If we just look at that metric itself, I don't think it takes into account the effectiveness of our ads. And also as an agency, I feel like it's a bit of a cop-out because I can hit any tacos number that you throw at me just by setting the budget. But am I truly effectively using your ad dollars right? And is it truly driving incremental sales? That's another core question that I think you need to bring in a bunch of other metrics to determine that. So that's my core issues with tacos. Like in general, Phillip, your 4 points, I totally agree with it. And then it just, all right, what's the focus now? Like tacos is a great budgeting tool and metric, but how do we also determine the effectiveness of our advertising and make sure we're moving in the right direction?
Awesome. Great opening statements. The floor is now open for open conversation. Andrew and I will refrain from entering any of our own opinions, but we may chime in with some clarifying questions. But from what it sounds like so far, Phillip is saying it's the most important metric, and Joe is saying it's a vanity metric. So, Phillip, take it away.
One of my questions for Joe is, I've been talking about this a lot on the platform on LinkedIn, and you're not the first person who said it's a budgeting metric, right? And so I guess I don't see it that way. To me, it's a profitability metric. And back to my initial argument, it actually draws the roadmap for success, right? Because you made a great point. Sure, you could lower tacos by bidding only on brand keywords, no acquisition keywords, and show a low tacos, but probably low growth, right? And so sure. I guess for me, we're a performance-based agency, and that means we only get paid on commissions, right? So there's no retainers. So we're super motivated to grow sales. And so the first question that I'll ask, whether it's a potential client or a new client or a prospect, is, what are your tacos expectations? I think that's just basically one of the first things that we say, all of us in the industry, in our engagements, in our conversations. And it's really just one of those universal things where I guess why I think tacos is so important is you could do anything in the ad console, but without understanding the tacos, you don't know if you're doing well or not. You don't know if you're losing money or not. And full disclosure, we have engaged with many clients that had no idea if they were making money on the platform or not. And then once we engage with them, we do some pro formas, we'll show them, oh, you're not making money based off of what I'm seeing. And it's really the light bulb goes off. And it always surprises me that, I can find a seller that's doing maybe several $1 million and they really don't understand their profits. And that's why I'm such a proponent for the tacos metric. But I guess I'd like, Joe, why do you think it's just a budgeting metric versus like a roadmap? Or like I said, in my argument, once you understand your tacos, your ACOS and your tacos typically, they follow in line. Why do you think it's just a budgeted metric and not a metric that allows you to do experimentation? Because I would think knowing your tacos level and knowing that, okay, wow, we've got pretty good margins here. client's okay with the tacos, I can go crazy now in the ad console and do a whole bunch of experimentation.
Sure.
That's really one of my, like, how do you get to that point where you can do all the experimentation and spend the money without understanding the tacos? I guess that's where I'm going.
Yeah. And I love that perspective. And what utilizing the tacos metric allows us to do as advertisers is experiment more. Whereas like if you have a restrictive ACOS target, so our advertised cost of sales, and if we're looking at that, well, that may push me to say like branded search, which may cannibalize organic sales. And if we look at the true impact of advertising, like just relying on ACOS and ROAS is also not a great metric to utilize. So you got to bring a lot of these pieces together. So in that aspect, and with the way that you're approaching it, Phillip, I like tacos. And I had the debate with my co-founder, Matt, super smart dude, and he likes tacos because it allows us to experiment more without having to worry about those exact, like immediate return on attributed ad sales. So in that way, it's great because it frees up some budget for us to play around with what's that really incremental target that we can add with our ads. The key thing for me is that if I go, say we are able to unlock some more budget, we go from 20 to 25%. Well, I can hit that tacos goal really easy just by increasing the budget. But the core question for me is like, what's the incrementality of that extra 5% that I just added? And so for there, what I'll typically do is look at other variables. Like I could look at, say, like market share percentage over time. So pull up the search query performance report and see, all right, am I gaining incremental market share for where I'm allocating this extra budget over time? And that tells me that I'm making inroads against my competitors. Or in other instances, like we have a lot of clients that have a high lifetime value. So supplement brands or solid brands with cross sales. And so for there, what we like to look at is, all right, on a cost per acquisition basis, how much did it cost me to get a new to brand customer? And so for like a supplements company, say it cost me $20 to get a new client or a new customer. And that initial bottle that I have is $20. Well, if I look purely at an ACOS basis or a ROAS, it looks bad because it's 100% ACOS, 1x ROAS. But say they come back and they purchase 4 more times from me. Now my lifetime value is $100, not $20, and my actual return on advertising is 20% or 5x. And so what we like to do is like, yes, unlocking tacos is great and allows us to really focus on the incrementality and where we can allocate that spend. But I don't use it as like a key performance metric on how we do with that. I think we could maybe see it in some other metrics like market share percentage, search query performance report. That's been awesome just because you can really see where competitors are at. Or in other instances, like from a cost per acquisition and lifetime value, even if I'm increasing my tacos, I know that I'm making money overall and I may want to expand my advertising budget. So personally, I like to take it more to those core metrics to determine incrementality of the advertising spend. But by starting to focus on tacos, I think that lets us as advertisers kind of unlock that, which is where I definitely like the metric.
Got it. Yeah. No, those are great points. So it's interesting. So let's talk about it. You brought up the ACOS metric. So again, back to one of my pillars here. I think not evaluating your tacos is just a flaw, like a fatal flaw, because let's say you're evaluating success on ACOS. Well, knowing that you have only a 7-day attribution window on typically 80 to 85% of all your spend, and knowing that you only have a 7-day attribution window, I mean, Joe, seriously, do you think most customers are ready to buy in 7 days when it's an order of $100, $200, outdoor furniture, high level electronics? And like, this is why I say, now I would agree more with you if Amazon's attribution window was 30 days. I'd be like, whoa, this is a whole different conversation. But what the tacos allows you to do, and you also brought up CPA, really important. You can't even evaluate a CPA in the ad console. You can't do that through ACOS. You can only do it through tacos. Very simple. And so like, this is again where I say like, you got to live and breathe by the tacos, because everything else, you're just flying blind, in my opinion, because it just sheds all profitability. I mean, I've worked for incredible companies before I started the agency, and they were all profit driven, right? These were not the Ubers of the world where, you're still losing money making 40% of every ride, which sort of mystifies me, right? But whatever. But I think, like I said, you brought up incredible points. But to evaluate CPA, I think the only way you can do that is through the TACOS metric. And it's really hard to do just through the ACOS. So Joe, what would you say is the best metric? Here I am defending TACOS as the end all be all. You give me your best. What's your best metric? And I won't debate it, but I'm just curious. If you had to pick a metric from the ad console, well, and again, I think the ad console is limited, right? It's fatally limited. So
Sure.
What would be your best metric?
I think, and I have the easier stance of saying that I think that TACOS is not the best metric, and then I can come back and say there's a bunch of metrics. So, if I had to look at a single metric over a long period of time, I think I would go to market share percentage. And based off of that, I can split out multiple different terms too. And so I would go off a market share percentage, because what that allows me to do is gauge against my competitors, how much of the market am I owning? And it helps me weed out a lot of other third-party implications, like economic changes, customer changes, like shopping pattern updates, like holidays aren't here anymore. It lets me know if I'm making inroads against my competitors and if I'm owning that area of the market that I want to truly own. And I guess throwing it back to you too, I'm curious, how conversations go. So how do you define success with TACOS? So you set a goal. How do you go back to the client and say, okay, this is successful, based off of TACOS?
So that's a great question. So typically, let's say it's a client with maybe 6 or 7 products. What we'll do is do pro formas even before we engage, which means we'll set a target retail price. I'll be able to bake in a whole bunch of the Amazon cost. And then I'll throw an arbitrary TACOS number. Let's call it 15%.
Sure.
I'll evaluate their cost of goods, and I'll see where I think that profit percentage is going to be based off of that target ACOS goal of 15%. That's our starting point. We have to start somewhere. I can't just start, I once took a call and they said, well, Phillip, what's the launch budget? And I'm like, I don't know. How fast do you want a hockey stick, right? I can spend $100,000. I can spend $5,000. And then I turned it on them and I said, well, what are your profitability goals? And so I guess what I'm trying to say is when we do these pro formas, and right from the get-go, I'll know where their threshold is for profitability, right? And then you say, okay, well, how do we evaluate the advertising strategy? At that point, if they're new to Amazon, we'll come up with a launch strategy and say, you're going to run probably 1-to-1. You'll probably be at break even for 3 or 4 months. If they don't like that conversation, I probably say we're not a good agency for them, right? Sure. But yeah, so it starts with the pro forma. It starts with their cost of goods, right? And that goes back to one of my points. One size doesn't fit all. And I have, here's a great example. Let's take this, Joe. So example, you have 4 products, right? One product is $10. The cost of goods is $10. Okay. It sells for $49. It's a small in size. You've got super high tacos or super high profits or profit percentage. So there you can go very high on your TACOS, your ACOS. You have lots of options. Sure. Here's another option. Product B, the product cost is $22. It sells for $69. It's oversized. Whoa. Has terrible margins. So right from the get-go, we know our options are limited. We know our TACOS goals are going to be pretty low. And so that's what I'm talking about, the roadmap, right? And that's what that TACOS metric does. Here's a really good one. you talk about repeatable. So product C, here's another example. Cost is $2. It sells for $12.99. You've got your fixed FBA fee of $4.95. Guess what? You're making some margin on there, but it's repeatable. So what you do is you push hard, rinse and repeat. And then in my last example here is like shoes, apparel. So, your margins are pretty good, but if your return rates are 20%, 25%, you can't have a TACOS goal of 20%, right? That's going to be pushed downward. And so this is, and I think maybe this is just the nature of sort of my agency. As I mentioned, we're vertically integrated with our clients. So we manage every aspect from operations, we manage creative, we manage all the catalog, we manage all the advertising, promotion schedule. And so that's really, like I said, understanding that TACOS metric not only allows us to pull the levers in the ad console, but it also allows us to pull the levers in the promotion calendar. And so I hope that sheds some clarity there, but I think it all starts with a pro forma.
So let's say one of those products, it had like say we set a 20% TACOS goal. And this is one of the higher margin products. Mm-hmm. And so you go through and you implement that. And for every $1,000 in total sales, you're spending $200 on advertising. So over time, how do you go back to the customer and say, hey, we're definitely achieving things with our advertising? Like, what is success, or what does that narrative look like? Because I can spend $200 for every $1,000 we sell, but over time, how do you say like, hey, this advertising is really leading to what we're trying to achieve?
Yeah. Oh, that's a good question. It's bar charts, right? So it's a sales chart. I mean, as long as we're moving upward, the clients are happy.
See, and that is the key point. And I think that's a key thing that a lot of people miss. And this is where I'm 100% aligned with you. A 20% TACOS goal or a TACOS goal is great. But what that means is that with that, there should be sales growth that goes along with that, and so if people just get hung up just on the TACOS goal, what happens is that, sales could go down. I could just cut my budget back and I could still hit that 20% TACOS, and we could say, hey, we're meeting your advertising goal. But what I'm hearing you say is that's not the full picture. It's not just TACOS. It's now the company has to be growing with that. And I think that is the nuance that a lot of people miss. Yeah,
absolutely. We have a rule here at PDMG, right? If we're not growing, we're losing, right? Sure. And that's what happens. If we're not growing, we lose clients. So, it's really helped us. And one of the reasons I really didn't list this as one of my four explanations of the pillars of why I love TACOS. But I mean, for all the people participating on this podcast is, how often do you hear TACOS thrown out in pitch when you're pitching to clients, or you may be bringing on a client that's well established on the platform, but they're not happy. Right? The first questions that we're talking about are TACOS. They're not talking about what's your impression share goal? What's your CPC goal? Right? And it's just like, it's always like, okay, what's the TACOS goal? Because back to what I said earlier, it all rolls downward, right? That's the roll up that I was talking about. Once you have that TACOS goal, you really start building the plan. And you mentioned it earlier with the experimentation. We love to experiment, but all those experiments have to roll up to that ACOS goal. And you also brought up the percent organic, and this is a whole nother debate, right? As Amazon introduces more ads, Joe's put incredible content out there that I've asked him for. He's given it to me that shows that Amazon is moving to more ads in search results. And I think we all know the percentage of organic is shrinking. The percentage of ad sales is growing, and it's just making our jobs more difficult collectively. So the impression share, let's get back real quick on that. So I guess my pushback there, Joe, is, okay, your market share is growing, right? Yep. But is that helpful if you're losing money?
Yep.
Joe, can I jump in really quick too, just to back up a little bit to help the audience understand too? When you said that, market share, impression share is the most important metric in your eyes. Are you looking at the sponsored product impression share reports, or the campaign top of search impression share, or brand analytics, search query performance dashboards with brand impression share, or SOV tracking tools? Like, how are you defining that metric?
Yep. So, and I was going to be devil's advocate for myself too, if Phillip didn't call me out on it. Yeah. And so when we say what's the most important metric, what I'm going to say is like, you have to combine a bunch of these together. And so if I had to pick just one, that's usually the biggest one. And the key thing that we're looking at is the search query performance report, the market share percentage, because that's going to give you your overall, like how I'm showing up for impressions and clicks and orders. And there's a ton of really cool things you can do. Like if you compare the market share percentage between, say, like clicks and impressions, you can determine if your click-through rate is above or below your competitors. Same thing with conversion rates and lots of cool stuff there. But what Phillip rightly came back and said, well, yeah, we can grow our market share, but if you're losing money on every order that you get, you can increase the top line, but if you're not profitable, you're not going to be in business very long. And he is absolutely correct. And so that's where you need to combine a lot of these different metrics together. So predominantly, the biggest goal that we have as advertisers is to try to grow top line. But there are many instances too where it's like, hey, I'm okay, even though sales have not gone up as much, but I really need to improve margins. Then market share percentage would definitely not be my top metric. And I'm looking much more at efficiency and incrementality. And so I think you have to combine a lot of these metrics together. So market share percentage, big. TACOS, big. ACOS and ROAS, great when used in the right terms, as long as I'm not cannibalizing what would be already organic sales. So all these metrics need to come together. New to brand and cost per acquisition, like that's another big one. Like for certain clients, that's all we look at and try to drive is new to brand customers and cost per acquisition. And I like Phillip's approach too, in general, when we're setting our TACOS goal, because attribution is getting harder overall. And so privacy updates are coming along. iOS 14 came along and really hit Facebook/Meta. If you look at trying to tie a sale that comes from an Amazon DSP ad on a Safari browser on an iOS to Amazon, attribution, it's extremely difficult because trying to tie together that user of Safari to the Amazon app, really, really tough. And so you're not going to be able to get full attribution for your ads. And so utilizing TACOS as one of those key starting points, I think is great. And I love Phillip's approach because it's holistic and looking at overall growth, where I see other people leaning in towards, and why I don't like just the singular focus on the metric is like, hey, I was able to take this account and decrease TACOS over time. And that's like all the context that this agency gives. And it's like, okay, cool. I could do that tomorrow. I could take your TACOS to 0 tomorrow just by shutting off advertising. It's not what you truly want. Like, yeah, I decreased TACOS quite a bit. And so my pushback overall for just focusing on the TACOS metric is there's a lot of context that's not there. And then this focus on decreasing TACOS over time, I think what folks are saying is like, yeah, I'm using advertising to help boost the brand. And then over time, I'm able to decrease because I increased organic sales, which I think is, a key goal. So my pushback is not on TACOS. And I think when used in combination with these other efficiency metrics, super powerful. My pushback is that as the singular focus. And then also saying people like, what is a good TACOS? There's no good TACOS. It's all about the context on your product and what your goals are and everything else like that. So that's my key pushback. So totally agree with you, Phil.
Yeah, no, great points. I mean, no, people ask me, like, I can tell them, Joe, what a good TACOS is right when I do the pro forma, right? And
Sure.
that's what I love about TACOS. Like, I mean, I'm going to eat a TACOS right now. But the point is when I do that pro forma, it allows me to really say, should be your goal, right? Just generally and again, this, you run a top-notch advertising agency, right? And where we're sort of that full integration, like what I love about the tacos goal is, you know, it'll say, okay, if I do the pro forma, I'll say, oh, well, your margins actually support a higher tacos or a lower tacos, right? So in that case where I said it was an oversized item, right? If I would have just used my standard approach of 12.5%, right? So my tacos goals have changed over the years because of the cost of an Amazon. 3 years ago, it would have been 10% for just basic products. Now it's 12.5% for basic, non-consumable, non-repeatable products. If you ask me, you know, what the tacos goal would be for a consumable where it's a monthly repeat purchase, I say 20%, 25% if you've got the margins, right? Because you got to keep on piling new customers. That's how we've taken brands and just exploded them, right? And that's just customer acquisition, subscribe and save growth, customer acquisition, market competition slaying, just taking customers away from the competitors. Another thing I really like about the tacos metric that the ad console doesn't do, and nothing in the ad interface does, is let's play this out, Joe, and I know you'll like this. We set a tacos goal of 15%. We're crushing it. Guess what? Our keywords are now ranking better. We have more share of organic. Guess what? I can go back to that customer or client and say, here's the data. You're currently at 15%. We're getting more organic market share now. Let's bump it up to 18%. Let's all share. Since we get a revenue split, we all make out. They make out because now we're pushing harder. We're actually hockey sticking further because I've just showed them, hey, your percent of organic has grown. Let's push up that tacos. Full disclosure, when I commented on Joe's post, I think it was 50-50. 50 of the people just try to annihilate me and be like, no, that's crazy. Tacos is, that's a ridiculous metric. And then half the people are like, it's the only metric, right? It's like everything in the world, everything's split. And I was actually surprised. But I mean, in that last case where we'll set goals, we'll start ranking for keywords, our percent organic really starts to increase for those keywords or for those products, that product set. And I'll go to the client and be like, here's the data. Can we spend 2% more on tacos? And they're like, all day long, absolutely, Phillip. Keep on getting me new customers. And so then we'll take that and say, okay, where can we boost up in the ad console? Is it top of search? Is it, bidding a little bit more aggressively on product pages, more SPV, right? I mean, like I said, it just gives you so many options. I'm just such a believer on the tacos metric. And full disclosure, it's Amazon, Joe, I think you'll agree. Amazon makes it very, very hard to get to the tacos metric. They could so easily in the ad interface do it. It's simple. Take all ASIN click cost, divide by all ASIN demand each month. There's your ACOS or your tacos metric. Yeah. We built a software. It's not perfect, but we are actually tracking your profit at your ASIN level at a tacos level. So we're baking in all ad cost for sponsored product, dividing that by all your sales for your ASINs, and it gets us sort of a tacos goal or a tacos number. And that's really illuminating because that's what our customers want. Our clients are like, hey, Phillip, are we making money or not? And at the end of the day, the only way I can say if they're making money or not is if I look at that tacos metric.
Sure. Yeah. And I think we just kind of speak in a couple different languages. So you say, all right, tacos is the only metric or it's the key metric. But now I'm going back to the client. I'm saying, we're driving more organic sales. We're seeing a ton of growth. Let's increase that more. And so how I would say that is, hey, with this advertising budget, this tacos, you're doing great. And I'm showing you these other core metrics, which are the sales growth and the organic sales and ranking. These are the other aspects. And so what that's telling me is that you are being effective with that advertising. So there's these other metrics that you're using to justify that budget. And so now you can say, okay, I'm going to increase this budget more because look at it's working. Let's feed the flywheel. Let's keep it spinning. And so my pushback to your original statement is you don't truly think TACOS is the end all be all target, but that's a good starting point. And then we can measure the effectiveness through all these other pieces that you're incentivized to deliver, which is performance and growth and profitability to the company.
Right. But if, let's say devil's advocate, let's say I'm a potential client and I'm going to say, if you're not looking at TACOS, Joe, and I come to you and I say, well, Joe, how will you show me if I'm profitable?
Mm-hmm.
So how would you answer that? So I'm a huge fish. I'm Hershey's, right? Yep. And you're pitching me, and you're talking about your services and your software, your capabilities, your team, yep. And then I go to you and Joe. I go to Joe. Joe, how through the ad interface are you going to tell me if I'm profitable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll use TACOS. Yeah. Right. But to measure the effectiveness of our ads, then we're going to use a lot of other pieces to show that with that budget that we have for advertising, it's leading to those true results. And so that's where you can go to overall sales, or you can start to pull back the curtain on ranking for keywords, market share percentage, new to brand growth, subscribe and save, all those other areas. We want to pull that back further and say, okay, are our results leading to those right outcomes? And you should see that in top line sales. Mm-hmm. And if you have that right TACOS goal, you get the profitability. So I'm not saying that we don't use TACOS. We definitely do. But to measure the effectiveness and how we use that advertising budget, now we're looking at other core metrics.
Right. Great. No, and that's fantastic. So, but ultimately though, once you start pulling the levers, trying to make the adjustments, you have to look back at the TACOS metrics to make sure that you're not derailing your initiatives, right? So, so you say, okay, here's the TACOS. You say, back to my original point, it creates the roadmap. It's your literally path to advertising. And so, okay, you're going to go in there and let's say you do 4 or 5 different things and wow, the TACOS starts to skyrocket. That TACOS metric, again, is that illuminating light bulb that says, whoa, what we're doing is actually detrimental to the initiative, right? And then, like I said, I think, I look at click-through rate. Clearly, that's a really important metric for us when we look at the ad console. We look at conversion rate, even though it's not even a metric. But yeah, I mean, TACOS is, like I said, it's critical because at the end of the day, we have to make sure all of our clients are profitable, and it goes back to that metric.
Yeah, I did have one last kind of clarifying question for Joe, and then we're going to start bringing this thing into bringing it into a close, and I'll give you guys an opportunity to kind of just state your last final closing points. But Joe, going back to something that you were saying at the very start of the episode. You mentioned, and I think this is a great point, that part of why total ACOS can be a little bit of a vanity metric is you can literally just pause all the ads and bring that to zero, or just like greatly reduce your budget and pull that down. And it's not necessarily, and I think everyone here agrees, not necessarily better for the sales and the everything. But on the flip side, that's looking specifically at just the amount of spend going into TACOS. But I think something that Philip's trying to emphasize is that in terms of a performance metric and efficiency metric, I think he's trying to get at the point of more growing sales within, like, assuming budget stays the same, right? There's kind of 2 ways to reduce your ACOS, either reduce your spend or increase your sales. And so do you agree with that statement that the ACOS is also, in a way, it is a measurement of sales growth, or do you not see it that way? Do you see it strictly just as a budget management?
Let's see. So TACOS itself. So where I don't like when people reference it, and this is not Philip's case, is like, I will hear people say lower is better. And it's like, well, yeah, in an ideal world, yes, but I could bring it down to 0. Or I could bring it really low, and you would see stagnating growth or actually a drop in growth, and overall profitability could take a hit, even though your margins are eating up less from advertising. And so that's one key piece that I will fight back against. Lower is not always better. And many times we want to increase advertising. If we look at like efficiency metrics, so like ACOS is a good one. There are definitely areas of ACOS that I can poke holes into. So for instance, somebody comes to me and they say, lowest ACOS, this is the best. Again, that's not as easy. So like somebody comes to me and they say, okay, decrease my ACOS as much as possible. Okay, cool. I can run a sponsored products campaign and just focus on your branded term. And I'm probably going to cannibalize
or
a lot of
sponsored
organic.
display. Sponsored display impression-based attribution with retargeting.
Exactly. Yep. So especially with the impression based too, because now you get a lot more attributed ad sales. But what was the true incrementality? Like, did that ad actually draw a sale that would not have occurred without that ad? At the end of the day, that's what we're trying to achieve with our advertising. And then we want to do it efficiently. And so for ACOS, there's issues with that too, where it's just going by the lowest ACOS. Yeah, we can take it all the way down to these branded terms, but are you truly growing your brand there? You can't just go lowest ACOS is best. You can't just go lowest tacos is best. And so I think it's all the nuance that goes into it is my key piece. And then what are the other underlying metrics that we can use to measure our advertising effectiveness? And so we can break it out, whether it's new to brand, market share percentage, overall organic sales, top line sales. Like Phillip's hit on a bunch of those. And so I think the key thing is that the tacos target always has to go with something else that is indicating the growth and representative of the overall impact of your ads.
I would agree with Joe 100% there. 100%. The low tacos and low ACOS is not the ultimate goal, right, Joe? Right? It's mass. The ultimate goal is ACOS taco stability with sales growth, right? That's the ultimate goal, right? And then I'll chime in here. So oftentimes I'll have conversations with CEOs or large brands, and I'll ask them, "What's your tacos goal?" And they're familiar with tacos, right? And they'll say, let's just say 13%, right? And then I'll pose the question and I'll say, can we do a test? Can I increase your tacos goal, Joe, not decrease?
Yep.
But and Joe mentioned incrementality, right? So I agree there too, Joe. So if I increase your tacos from 13 to 16%, but I can grow 40% top line sales growth, will you do that? 9 out of 10 times, they always say yes. It's really how you script the conversation, right? So I agree 100%. Low ACOS and low tacos goals is not the main objective. And that can be spun really weird on the internet. And it kind of drives me nuts. But I do think back to the tacos is, I'm actually, Joe, I'm always pushing for more tacos. Right. Sure. But I've got to prove it. Yeah. Right. It's just like
you have to have the long-term results that go with that incremental ad space.
Exactly. And especially, Joe, with like supplements or repeatable purchase products, I mean, you just want to pile customers into that yep. brand. Full disclosure, we worked with a brand. They're one of the biggest brands on the platform. For the first 2 years, their tacos was 30%. Then we moved them down to 25%. Then 20%, then 15%, but the point is they're a market leader now. And so that's where it's back to that flying blind. And the ad console has great metrics. Joe brought up incredible points throughout the conversation, all valid, right? Brands want to see their market share. They want to see, how their shelf is comparing to other competing products. I do think, Joe, Amazon could do a much better job at showing new to brand on the sponsored product side. I think it's terrible that they just show it on sponsored brands. I think people would spend a lot more money if they could show all the new brand on the sponsored product side.
Sure. Or Amazon Marketing Cloud, you can do that.
All right, that has been a lot of conversation, a lot of good thoughts around. I mean, I heard a lot of agreement on a lot of topics, a lot of things, but still, I think it's still up in the air. So we'll be curious to hear what everyone else thinks on this. But I'm going to give everyone, Joe, Phillip, I'm going to give you guys just, give a quick little 30-second, I guess, concluding statement. Just what do you want to leave the audience with? And also, please be sure to let everyone know where they can get in touch with you. If it's going to, either get in touch with you directly or through your agency, what's the best way to get into contact? And Phillip, we'll start with you and then we'll go to Joe.
Yeah, so I've enjoyed the conversation. I have tremendous respect for Joe and his team, what they're doing. I think they're leaders in understanding data, presenting data, thought content. He's a thought leader, and just really respect what Joe and his team are doing. The platform is getting ever more challenging for any advertisers. I think we can all agree to that, and understanding all the metrics is important. It paints the whole picture. I think in the future, it's going to be harder for us to find ways to grow at cost-effective levels, and that's the challenge of anybody in the industry. For people who want to reach me, I'm on LinkedIn, Phillip Durazio. You can search for Palmetto Digital Marketing Group on LinkedIn. You can find us on our website, www.palmettodigitalmarketinggroup.com. I've really enjoyed the spirited debate. And I think I have a firm belief if it's worth listening to, you're going to learn things throughout the conversation. And so I got to learn some things today, and I'm grateful.
Awesome. Thank you, Phillip. And yeah, we'll put the link to your agency as well as your LinkedIn profile in our show notes in the video description, so you guys can check that out. And then Joe, why don't you close us out and let people know where to get in touch?
Yeah. So Phillip, had a ton of fun talking through this with you.